Good evening. It is hard to put into words the importance of the D-Day landings in preserving freedom in Europe then and securing it ever after, for us, even now. The Queen captured it well when she thanked veterans and their comrades who died in battle or since for what we owe and what they gave in the defeat of the Nazis. The fate of the world depended on their success, she said. Today in Portsmouth, on the eve of the 75th anniversary of the biggest invasion mankind has ever mounted, she was joined by 15 other world leaders. But for once, they were not the most important people. That distinction belonged unequivocally to the veterans themselves.
They are now a dwindling band of brothers, bound together by their common experience for the most decisive moment of the 20th century. Frail with age, but still bold in spirit, the men to whom we all owe our freedom. A standing ovation that even included the Queen, a sign of the enormous respect with which these veterans are held. 75 years on, their humility and humour still shine through.
I was 12 years old when I landed on Gold Beach. Sorry, 23 years old. I put my age back a bit. I was terrified. I think everyone was. You don't show it, but it's there. I look back on it as a big part of my life. It changed me in a way. But I was just a small part in a very big machine. We must never forget.
The Queen summed up the character of the veterans, referring to their unconquerable resolve, echoing a speech by her father, King George VI.
That is exactly what those brave men brought to the battle, as the fate of the world depended on their success. Many of them would never return, and the heroism, courage, and sacrifice of those who lost their lives will never be forgotten.
The tributes also came from world leaders, the most emotional from President Macron, whose country was eventually liberated by those landing in Normandy.
Let me first thank you sincerely on behalf of my nation.
Theresa May read a letter home from Captain Norman Skinner to his wife, written 2 days before D-Day.
My thoughts at this moment, in this lovely Saturday afternoon, are with you all now. I can imagine you in the garden, having tea with Janie and Anne, getting ready to put them to bed.
But he, like more than 4,000 Allied troops, never came home. The current US president read the words of his wartime predecessor.
They will need thy blessings, for the enemy is strong. He may hurl back our forces, but we shall return again and again. And we know that by thy grace and by the righteous of our cause, our sons will triumph.
We'll meet again.
But this was also a day to remember the music of the war, songs that stirred the memories.
We'll meet again some sunny day.
And sounds which stirred the soul. D-Day wasn't just the biggest invasion ever attempted, it was also one of the biggest air raids of the Second World War, involving 11,000 aircraft, a feat commemorated in the skies above Portsmouth today. Skies on which a nation thanked the D-Day generation, to whom we all owe a debt that can never be repaid. Dan Rivers, News at 10, Portsmouth.
Shortly before midnight on the 5th of June 1944, RAF gliders set off from Dorset to drop paratroopers near the strategically vital Pegasus Bridge in northern France. Taking it and holding it was crucial to protect the Allied sea invasion from Nazi attack, so it holds a special place in the pages of the history of D-Day and, of course, in the memories of those who were there.
In the skies above Normandy, 280 British and French paratroopers reenact the airborne operations of 75 years ago. Theirs was a crucial role in preventing German forces reaching the beaches and driving the Allies back into the sea, nowhere more so than at Pegasus Bridge, the first military objective across which German tanks would have poured onto Sword Beach if it hadn't been secured. Each anniversary, the veterans of that day who gather at Pegasus Bridge are slightly weaker in body and fewer in number.
Finally, there have been many reminders and recreations today of the eve of the invasion ahead of tomorrow's the 75th D-Day anniversary. Surely the most dramatic, though, has been a rerun of the parachute drop that Harry Reid first made as a 20-year-old. Today, at the age of 95, yes, really, he did it all again, and he seemed to enjoy it. Not surprisingly, rather more this time.
When Harry Reid last parachuted into Normandy, exactly 75 years ago, he was jumping in the dark of night behind enemy lines.
We could see this massive fireworks display ahead of us. But of course it wasn't a fireworks display, was it? And the parachute opened, I glanced along, there was a plane crashing in flames just ahead. And I could see flashes of the ground, but not very much of the ground. And then splash.
Oh, there we go.
Today, aged 95, the circumstances were rather different. Not part of an invading force, but the guest of honour at the drop zone.
I thought the jump was brilliant.
It must have brought back a lot of memories, though.
A different kind of jump, different reception. I didn't have someone like you waiting to have a little chat with me when I landed on D-Day. In fact, the people who were waiting for me didn't really want me to be there. They were not very kind. They were prepared to shoot me.
Harry had just turned 20 when he learned he would be part of D-Day.
It was get in there, boyo, and do what you can do, and if you die in the process, you'll be one of a lot who do so.
But they landed in fields deliberately flooded by the Germans. Nearly 200 men drowned that night.
I get very sad at this. Everyone's death is a tragedy, isn't it? But when they're your friends, when you've trained with them, when you've done all the things that an airborne unit does to prepare itself for war, and then just like that. And they had told us in the planning that 50% of us would be casualties on landing. So the odds were very much against our survival.
How's that, Harry?
That was super.
But after waiting 75 years to jump over France again, Harry Reid has shown the spirit of D-Day still lives on. Martha Fairley, News at 10 in Normandy.
Sorry, but that is just the most amazing, uplifting story. Now, tomorrow, the D-Day commemorations move across the Channel. The beaches near Arromanches have been made ready for reenactments of the landings. Veterans will parade through the town centre, and there will be services, VIP speeches and more flypasts. Prince Charles and President Trump will be in northern France, and it is going to be, I think it's fair to say, another moving and memorable day.